Hey, good morning, everybody. Super happy to be here. Welcome back to another episode of Homebrew. My name is Rishi Palriwala.
And I'm Afjal.
And today we're going to be telling you about our story and why we decided to start Nuhom. And just sort of bring the audience in on a bit of the background and why we're so amped about what we're up to.
Dude, I love an origin story.
Yeah.
So, Rishi, why? What compelled you to start Nuhom?
Takes us back a little bit, right? So there's really a number of factors for me. My background has been in real estate for about 12 years or so, investing for the first, 10 and still do today. But also became an agent about 3 to 4 years ago. I always had sort of this love-hate relationship with agents as an investor. Sometimes I would see that people would go, the distance for me, and sometimes I felt like there wasn't a whole lot of value add, and just wanted to get behind the curtains and learn about, what was the actual value and utility that agents could and should and might bring, and see the best cases and the worst cases, and really just started to notice when I joined sort of an old dinosaur agency that there weren't like great standards or best gold standards in place. There wasn't
we shall not name that dinosaur, right?
Yes, but I will say I learned a lot too. Like the first couple years when you're in this space, you go through a lot of scenarios where you need to lean on people to learn, and that's a lot of that business.
Well, that's the best way to learn, right? Get into the weeds of what doesn't work, right? And understand like the broken parts, and then go fix it.
Yeah, exactly. And so, spent about 2 years just, dipping my feet into the real estate agency space, learned about the things I liked and loved in the space, the relationships. And then, there's a lot of tedious work as well in agency, but also learned about, practices that some agents did that I didn't think were fair. And, we're being taught some things where I question them quite a bit. And so, as you mentioned, just try to take that lens and apply them to what consumers I felt wanted at the time, that would be more fair, more just, and more transparent. And that's a lot of what led to, the creation and some of the pillars that we think about for Nuhom.
Interesting. Yeah.
How about yourself? Like what were some of the early things about, we started conceptualizing this about 2 years ago, in 2019. And, then I think we launched around, late 2020. So
right.
What were some of the things that resonated with you and in your process?
Well, I'm super amped about, your story, but, I think you and I have very similar kind of backgrounds. We love real estate.
Yeah.
Right. And my background also is in technology. So when I look at all the things that I'm used to using and interacting with big brands, it's fast, convenient, on demand.
Yep.
Like it's efficient. Yep. Right. And so 2 years ago, I was buying my home, as you know, and I did all the research online. Right. I found the home on Zillow, and I called you. At the time, you were my agent, and I said, "Hey, Rishi, I need help taking the next step." And the next step was to make an offer. Right? There was no way for me to do that, or I just didn't know how to do that. There's no information online for me to actually go in and actually do that.
Yep.
So you helped me with the drafting the offer, negotiating, finding lenders, home inspectors. And then all the way up to closing, which I think took like 45 days, right? Yep. To me, the feeling that I had, I was in a black box. Yep. Although you told me what's going on and like what to expect, as a good agent does, I felt like I was not in control, right? So I felt I was buying this massive, purchase, making this massive purchase, and I didn't know where I was in the process, right? And I would call or text you and say, "Hey, Rishi, what's going on?" Right. And then you would tell me, we're waiting on the lender, or, we're waiting on the seller to respond. Yeah. So me being used to, instantaneous kind of like notification and kind of knowing where I am.
Yep.
This was very daunting.
Yep.
Right. And at that moment, I think you and I were like, man, something needs to change.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Something really needs to change. So I think from my perspective, I love solving, complex problems and with technology. Right. So I think what's interesting to me is how do we look at real estate as a whole and the home buying experience as a whole and create a better experience around the buyer. Yeah. Today, I think we realize that the traditional model, it's very agent centric.
Yeah.
And I think, what we're trying to do and with immense conviction is we're trying to create a buyer centric model that empowers the home buyer, empowers the end user and the consumer to buy something with certainty.
Yeah, absolutely. So you hit on a lot of points there. Yeah. If I just go back to a couple of them. So number one, very agent-driven experience. So today, to really do anything in the process, whether it's going on a tour, although you can go to open houses, getting access to the home, making an offer, getting a pricing analysis, to kind of help you justify pricing. They're all things that you have to sort of do with this agent. Mm-hmm. When I think that a number of those things you could do independently if the right tools were created for
Absolutely.
you. And number two, it's like, you're dependent on this one individual that you're trusting. You don't have this council of people all the time, mm-hmm. That you may want to get different inputs from. But it's one person that you're trusting to be available, mm-hmm. number one, when they're, probably servicing a number of clients out there.
Yeah.
And then, be on your side the whole time, right? Like there's some agents who are like, hey, Afjal, that price is too low. I'm not going to waste my time and make an offer for you, mm-hmm. right? Like, and that shouldn't be the case. Like, we have no idea sometimes what's going on the seller side. And sometimes, making an offer, is the first step to hopefully getting an accepted one. Mm-hmm. And where you start is not always up to the agent. It mm-hmm. should, the buyer should feel empowered because they have their own timeline in their mind.
Right.
Maybe they're excited about the home, but really not all that excited, but they just want to try it.
Yep.
And, they shouldn't have to, be dependent on an agent's time and schedule and choice, mm-hmm. To you being able to move forward. So
right.
Number three, rather, you mentioned you had done all this research, and I think people are more empowered than ever to do this. Like they go to open houses, they look online for, comps, homes that have sold in the neighborhood. They come up with their own thesis, mm-hmm. More now than ever. And you were kind of feeding me all this information. And yes, I was giving you sort of I was kind of, guiding you, but, the meat and potatoes of what we did were coming from you. And so, I feel like today, the real estate agent, it's obviously their role has evolved quite a bit in the last 2 decades, with listings coming online. And today real estate agents do sort of 2 main things. They facilitate and they advise. And I think more and more we're shifting to this advisory function as agents. Mm-hmm. And, giving people an ability to facilitate themselves and giving that, ability in their hands is an immensely important opportunity. And that helps everybody at the table.
Yeah.
We think it helps agents. We think it helps buyers. We think it helps sellers, ultimately. And so, and then through that, as my last point here, you felt like you didn't know where you were all the time. You were kind of leaning on me or calling me. Like this whole back and forth thing, you should know very clearly where you are in the process at all times.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't have to ping somebody every time just to find out, right? And that leads to people, they don't want to bother their agent and ask and all these kind of, soft things that sort of come out of that.
It's just so inefficient, right?
Right.
So many handoffs. Your contract is going from, you to the lender, to the attorney and back and forth 50 times.
Yep.
And then to the seller. It's just so much going on. And it's a very emotional time, right? But when these things are not very transparent. It makes it very, daunting and frustrating.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the reason, like, there's a number of reasons why this hasn't changed, right? Like, I think, without listing out all the reasons, one of the big ones is, agents obviously have some local knowledge, and that, continues to create a role for them. Mm-hmm. But I think over time, and Alex Rampell says this best. He's a fintech investor and entrepreneur, and he did a great talk about how software is eating the world, including real estate. Mm-hmm. And he brings up a quote from a playwright where they say all professions are conspiracies against the laity. And what that basically means is that all these professions out there have created a role for themselves. They've inserted themselves as mm-hmm. intermediaries, right? And the more they continue to perceive to be doing, the more they will continue to run that industry, right? So, but I would say as a real estate agent, real estate agents do, on a total net basis, they do far less than they did 20 years ago, right? And so today you can find a home online. That in itself, that discovery process is so vastly different than, before the 21st century. And so I think it's a really important note to make, and I think people have not caught up to what the industry has done, and how buyers have evolved in their process of making decisions and what information they have at their hand and fingertips.
Yeah, well, there's good news because Nuhom is here, right? So we're changing this. We're going to make it more, aligned with home buyers. We're going to infuse tech in the right places. We're going to use the agents at the right touch points, right? For guidance.
Yep.
And, in total, we're making it more transparent and we're creating standards.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, I think, if folks have looked at our MVP today, or if they've been clients of ours, we try to give folks the space and the time to make decisions, but give them the guidance on demand, give them the access to homes on demand, give them the pricing, all through clicks of a button, right? And this is the way people expect and want to receive information, we believe. Mm-hmm. And our clients have been super happy so far with our process. And it really empowers them, to take, the process into their own hands. And Absolutely. I think that's really enriching, everyone's experience.
Yeah. So to make this happen and kind of take this, to the next level, we need people. We need to grow our team. So we've been, scouting and looking for designers, engineers, marketers, not within the real estate space really, but, we're looking to kind of consumerize this and take it to the next, real estate 2.0. Yeah. So we need forward thinkers that want to build something that's right for the buyers.
Yeah, people who believe that the real estate market needs a home buyer centric model mm-hmm. that has clear transparency about the process, that allows home buyers to make choices along the way, whether it's how they decide to fund the purchase of their home, to when and how they decide to make an offer, who want education to be packaged in a step-by-step, approach so that buyers today don't have to jump around to different Google sites and search things and then, use their agent from time to time. And, if their agent's not having a good day, maybe they don't get answers. That's not the world we live in anymore. Right. And so I think folks who are really jazzed up about trying to improve the experience overall are folks we'd love to talk to. In whatever facet of help you think you can bring to the table. But yeah, ultimately we need to get the word out there. We think that there's, lots of room for improvement here.
Yeah. So thanks. I'm super pumped. And learning about and relearning about your origin story and why you started Nuhom and why we started Nuhom.
Thanks, man.
Love talking about this.
Yeah, likewise. It's good to, sit and think back to how things kind of came together. We've learned a lot in the last year and a half or so from our clients, from just experiences along the way.
Yeah.
And it's a tough space because, as I mentioned, there's, hasn't been a whole lot of change.
Yeah.
And so, some people are either going to be, on board or not. And so we hope that that people understand our our focus and our vision.
Yep.
And, we see that we believe that home buying can be more simple, can be, far more transparent, and, given what we've done and brought to market with our MVP, more affordable as well.